Right. Hello. Can you hear me okay? Just get these headphones on. 1, 2. Right, great. Sounds okay. Microphone. Always a battle getting that in place. Turn the heater off. A cup of coffee. And relax. Okay. Good morning, everybody. Right, so it's a bit of a subject area today, to get my head round. So this will be interesting. I just need to find something. Right. Alright, there we go. Right, yes. Hello, everybody. I wonder if there's anybody else coming along. Oh, we've got a few more. So, how was everybody's weekend? Good? Had a good live with Thomas. That was great playing on there. Really enjoyed it. It's really nice just to be on a stream playing a guitar, to be fair. Very cool, yeah. So this morning, right, it's kind of, I'm trying to link these two things together. But anyway, the first part of it is, or it could be the second part when I work it out in my head now, is describing and having an explanation. But then also, I'm looking at sort of at the same time the idea of why are flowers beautiful. Now, this whole thing's inspired by the physicist David Deutsch and a lecture that he's got online, which you can have a listen to. And his ideas on why is a flower beautiful, and really it's the reason that's of interest is it's something that most people think, flowers are beautiful. And in nature, bees and stuff like that like flowers, don't they? So what can we learn from this in terms of creating our art and making our music? So we can use these ideas to make better music, and we can also fix problems as well. All right. So it's like one of those kind of areas where you understand what's going on and you can go off and do it. But when you're talking about it, it's a little bit challenging. But I thought, why not? Let's just give it a go, because I think it would be really, it would be naughty if I just held it in and didn't share it with people or tried to, right? And at the end of the day, if this is a disaster, I can always delete it after I've analysed it and worked out why my talk this morning isn't beautiful. So just a little bit of an intro. So David Deutsch, in his book The Beginning of Infinity, explores the concept of beauty, particularly in relationship to flowers, from a unique perspective. He suggests that beauty is not merely a subjective or cultural phenomenon, but an object compound. There are some key points from his exploration, and that's what we're going to have a look at. The key points. Okay. So the first one, okay, is objective beauty and functionality. So Deutsch proposes that flowers, which evolve and attract insects for pollination, do this through objective beauty that is inherent in Paley. This idea extends beyond biological and evolutional inanimate objects like rocks or starry skies, which also partake in the universal aesthetic code. Okay, so we can think about this potentially in musical terms, believe it or not, because we do have things that are just instinctively beautiful in music that we like. There are devices and things that we can do that people just think are attracted to it, and most people like or understand. Or there are things that we use in music that are in every type of music. They're a framework. Okay. I don't know if anybody can think of any. Can anybody think of any? Maybe not. But anyway, there's one thing I can think of, right, that does spring to mind. On YouTube, there is... I'm going to have to fix my hair 2 seconds. On YouTube, there are some wonderful lectures by Leonard Bernstein from the 70s, right? From the 1970s. Hi, Stellian. We've just started. And I listened to your idea the other day, and very good. But what I'm interested in, all right, and it's good. I really like the idea that you were making music when you're tuning in. Everybody should be doing that. Everybody should be splurging and listening to me in the background. Or switching me off and just doing music. But no, that was really good. minus 14 degrees. Wow. So, yes. So what we can learn from objective beauty and functionality. What is objective beauty and functionality that I can think of as an example in music? Well, what occurs to me is Leonard Bernstein's lectures, and actually the first one that's on YouTube. So it's the Hartford lectures, and I think the first one, he talks about syntax and harmonic series. All right. Absolutely brilliant, and you should watch at least that first one anyway, because he presents so well. It's amazing to watch. So I don't know if anybody's seen them, but anyway. And what he talks about, from my very vague memory of it, is he was doing a research project, and what he wanted to know was why certain pieces of classical music were popular, and a wide range of people liked them. So what were these pieces of music that he was analysing? What did they have in common? This is the thing. What did those pieces of music have in common? So, not quite sure. Well, he probably was sure, but he thought, right, just to back this research up, I'll get a team together, because he's in Harvard, isn't he? So he can get lots of people together. So he got a physicist together and this language expert person to see what their thoughts were from his findings. So this team had a look at what he had. And what the physicist found was sort of his theories on it, why certain music was popular, is when we hit one note on an instrument, okay, we don't hear one note, we don't hear one one pitch. Okay, there's a fundamental pitch, and correct me if I'm wrong, but off my vague memory again, there's basically a fundamental, an octave, and then a fifth, an octave, and then I think there's a third, and then there's a quarter tone which you can round up, and that creates like a fourth basically. But when you look at all of those notes are found in the pentatonic scale. So it's a law of nature. That one note is found in the pentatonic scale. Leonard Bernstein found that basically all of these pieces, framework, were round certain notes of the pentatonic scale. And also, children's voices, from the linguistics expert, use pentatonic scale to modulate, like the playground chant, the na-na-na-na-na thing. Apparently that's universal across the world. And us as listeners all recognise the pentatonic scale. All right. Hi, Kevin. Hi, Sebas. How are you doing? Hi, Psyducks. How are you doing? It's the children have arrived. Insert PI. Oh, everything's good. Enjoying life. We're just talking about why is a flower beautiful, and why is this useful to us musicians? Great, thanks for the follow, Side Duck. And, anybody who's on here who isn't following me on YouTube, I know it might not be your favourite platform, but, I'm building that platform up, which is great. And it would be great to have more people on there, so that would be great. Kevin, sadly, got to run, but I love you more than you will ever know. Have a great stream. Thanks, Kevin. So, yes, why is a flower beautiful? So Leonard Bernstein basically found that these pieces of music were successfully liked by a wide range of people because of the pentatonic scale. And I must admit, the pentatonic scale is a great framework to work from, and it's also a great limitation as well. As I always say, limitations are, that's where creativity really sort of, comes from. So, I mean, some of my pentatonic scale tips are, yes, use the pentatonic scale when you're writing, and it's a healthy set of limitations, but, there are other things we can do to extend outside that. Doesn't mean you're just going to play those 5 notes now, does it? There are other things you can do. You can create a hexatonic scale. You can add the second and the ninth to it, and this becomes even more pleasing. You have that lovely neo soul ninth that gives it just extra harmony. So you got your pentatonic scale, you got your ninth, and then you can start getting into a bit of chromaticism. So you can add in all of the notes. It's just when you are adding other notes in, is that your landing notes are usually pentatonic scales. And when I'm improvising now, this is how I sort of roll with things, I use that pentatonic scale as a framework, and then I see how far I can move away from it in terms of creating tension and then releasing back to it. So in improvisation, when I'm creating tension and release, it's sort of moving away from a pentatonic idea and then coming back into it, because I know that's going to be the most pleasing thing for the listener to hear. And I know that when I do that, at some point, they're going to feel at home. Now, I was doing a lesson on the pentatonic scale with somebody, and we were talking about tension release and that, and there's a really good Guthrie Govan lesson on the pentatonic scale, and he just talks about how different notes of that pentatonic scale, minor pentatonic scale, create different tensions. So, for example, if we play a phrase that just is root, back to root, it's a very complete, probably quite boring sound altogether, because you're taking everybody at home back to home. The minor third of the pentatonic scale gives you a sort of melodic sound. It's very pleasing. The fourth, though, creates the most tension. If you start and end a phrase on the fourth, it leaves the listener wanting more. It leaves them hanging on the edge. You've said something, you've asked a question, and nobody's answered it, and you've left everybody like hanging when you end on that fourth. So you have to go. You don't have to. You can either play it again and create more tension, but then if you're going to resolve it, you could go back to the root, or you could go back to the next least sort of challenging resolve, which would be the fifth. So the fifth, again, it's like that harmony. It's fifth to root is the Amen cadence, isn't it? Used in church. It's not the only one, but it's the one. So the fifth is also, because it's a very strong chord tone, it's another very strong landing note that takes away tension from that fourth. And then the seventh, I think of the seventh, it's like a melodic option, really, like the third. It's a great chord tone to start solos on. So we have, different ways in music that we can create some sort of like harmonic certainty for people, which is interesting. And I suppose the pentatonic scale is really my thoughts on the equivalent of why we would think a flower is beautiful. All right. So there's some sort of an explanation there. All right. But you could go watch that lecture, and then you would probably there'll be stuff that I've missed out on that would give you more insight on objective beauty and functionality. So I think, tell me if I'm wrong, right? From what I've said, do you guys think that is a good explanation for the musical equivalent of objective beauty and functionality? Please let me know in the chat. And if you disagree, do say so. Because we've all got opinions here, and I'm certainly not always right. Artistic and scientific creativity. All right. So artistic and scientific creativity. So David Deutsch, he compares the pursuit of beauty in art to a pursuit of truth in science, suggesting that both are forms of knowledge creation. Just as scientific theories are hard to vary and explain multiple phenomena, artistic creations that embody hard to vary principles like symmetry, colour harmonies, contribute to our understanding of beauty. So this is interesting because there are a few things on this that are very, very, very helpful with music. Is I love the idea when I heard it of music and science being, the same thing, and what this inspires is firstly the wins, problems, and opportunities that I do in my coaching groups, okay? Scott, I've never heard such a detailed breakdown on the pentatonic positions. Well, that's good. It's a different detail, isn't it? And I must admit, when I heard this and I related the two things, and I play pentatonic scales with a different kind of love, I think about Leonard Bernstein, and I think about like, why is a flower beautiful? And as I'm playing, I'll think of flowers like withering as I create tension and then coming back to a beautiful self. But the pentatonic scale is safe. It's a framework, and if you use it, and you can hide it in modes and all sorts of stuff. You can use, you can use the pentatonic scale and give you a Lydian tone. If you have the root note of a Lydian scale, so let's use an example. So if you're playing E Lydian, all right, or A flat minor, okay, what you can do is you can play the minor pentatonic scale semitone down. So an E flat, unfortunately, for some, E flat minor pentatonic. If you didn't know this, by the way, that'll give you a Lydian sound. It doesn't have a root, but it has other tones. It has the sharp 4 in it, and a major 7, obviously, which are the two sort of key semitones that you would need. But actually, the main one is the sharpened fourth, isn't it? To give you that Lydian characteristics, you have that augmented fourth thing going on. But anyway, so we're talking about the sciencey side of this, right? I don't know why the camera keeps kind of blurring me out. So talking about the sciencey side, so one of the first things is the wins, problems, opportunities. So wins, problems, opportunities. Fundamentally, what we're trying to do is we are analysing our performance, aren't we? And what we are wanting to do is we're wanting to find problems and we're wanting to solve problems. And I know this might not be like a thing that we think about naturally when we're playing music, and it's not something till later on in my career that I was. I don't think naturally when we talk about problems that we like want problems. I don't think anybody, I certainly didn't think I don't want a problem. Maybe a challenge, but I don't want problems. But actually, problems are really, really good. So with wins, problems, and opportunities, we always do wins because we're going to go hard on the problems. So when we do a session or we do something or you're playing guitar, right, the first thing you have to think of, and even if there wasn't, it's impossible for there not to be a win. All right. So like turning up is a win. All right. Doing 2 minutes of something that you were expecting is a win, right? There is always a win. Like a negative, positive, really. We always have that. So you have to give yourself a win because it prepares your mind and yourself to be open to change, okay? And to look at what the problem areas are. So that's really, really important. So then you start, right? And I do this through free writing. I just start like looking at all of the problems and I just openly and honestly just write about them. And that's why I choose to free write them, because it's unedited. So the whole thing comes out. So all the problems come out of whatever I've been doing. And then I work options out. So I'll have a look through that free write. And then I'll pull out, okay? Obviously some of it will be quite emotional, right? But there'll be stuff in there that's really interesting. That's like, oh yeah, that's a problem, right? I really need to, that's something I'm definitely experiencing quite a lot of, and something that I want to face up to and sort out now, okay? So what I'll do is I'll start brainstorming like options on those problems. 3 is a good number, 3 different options. And out of those, I'll pick one that I want to work on. But fundamentally, in line with what David Deutsch says, what we're trying to do is we're creating new knowledge for ourselves. And the way to create new knowledge for ourselves is to solve problems. Okay? The reason I'm sitting here on this live stream with Ecamm as my main streaming tool is because somebody has decided, I'm going to make a streaming software that's going to make things a bit easier for Hutch. No, it wasn't just me. It's going to make it easier for people and less complicated just to do what they want to do and, get online and do their streams with ease. It's solving a problem, isn't it? It's taking all of those problems and then creating a solution. The wonderful Polychrome guitar suite solves a problem, doesn't it? It gives you everything that you need in one simple place, okay? So you're not split across multiple plugins getting different tones. You don't really get, when you're designing a tone, there's less chance of choice paralysis with something like that, because like Thomas has put together something that has solved lots of problems for him in the past, and he's stuck it all in one place, which is brilliant. The way we have our Kiesel guitars set up solves the problem. We want heavy humbucker sounds with bright splits that are multi-purpose. And we have that in the Fishman pickups, We have the wonderful Kiesel guitars that sound incredible, but I don't have a headstock because room's a bit tight in here, and plus I like the look. So there's all these ways that when we sit down doing wins, problems, and opportunities, that by solving problems, we create new knowledge for ourselves. And wherever we are in our lives, or whatever problems we've got, musical or whatever, fundamentally we can go through a process of exchanging horrible, shitty problems for much better problems to have. and we'll always have problems. Till the day we die, there will always be problems. So that's one side of it, okay? But the other side that I think sort of comes from this is there's a process that I do in my coaching sessions, which is called the Codex. So there'll be a few of you on here who've been put through this probably multiple times. And I really like, the Codex because it's a really good way of being an insightful producer who just knows, right, how to solve a problem, okay? And it's a process that you go through. But what it requires you to do is it requires you, because this is in line, so again, I'm not going off topic here. This is in line with what David Deutsch is saying in terms of the artistic and scientific creativity, all right? So, in other words, right, if we have a piece of music in front of us, right, we can analyze that data. It just becomes data. So the way I think of music is, obviously, when we're splurging and stuff like that, there's this deep, because we're dealing with emotions, there is this kind of embodied emotional thing going on when we create music. Not just the music. There are two sets of emotions when we're creating music, right? There is the emotion caused through the actual music telling its story, but then there's also our story as the artist. There are two things, and the things get mixed up quite a lot. So if we're having a bad session or our music isn't going in the direction that we want, we have our feelings about that. Like also if our music is, half-baked but has an amazing idea, we can get overexcited, which can equally cause problems because then it creates us to have future expectations on that piece of music, which is why when we're splurging on various parts of the machine, because of those, to separate our internal thoughts about our music away from the external emotions that the music's giving us, which is why we have a gap between music. So when people are saying like, oh yeah, I'm stuck on this track, I'm leaving it for a bit, man, and all this kind of thing, just got to let it settle down. If we're talking scientifically, why would you do that? And that is to get a distance between the emotions of the music that you've created, the purpose, the story, the message. That is one thing, completely different. That's not us, is it? All right? That's something completely and utterly separate from our thoughts and feelings about ourselves creating that music. There are two entirely different things. And this becomes very interesting because of that. If we put our feelings to one side, then we have music, which we can view as some sort of scientific specimen, which we can prod at and investigate. And this is why, when we get into Splurge and different areas of the machine, why there are certain games constructed, because it's based on this idea. Okay, it's based on this idea that we can approach music to a certain point scientifically, and why not? Because it is science, isn't it? It's maths, it's physics. Interestingly enough, both of which I was absolutely terrible at school, like bottom of the class of everything. But anyway, I'm catching up. So what can we do to, help us get out of these tricky problems? What skills do we need? So, okay, we all know that our music is now a scientific specimen that we can prod at and investigate. But we need some sort of sequence to do this, right? And basically the sequence is the this thing that is called Codex, right? I'll just find my map here. So fundamentally what's happening here is you're gonna you might have multiple pieces of music, so you'd choose one, all right? And then the next part of this is you and this is the direct listening. You listen to it, okay? you play that music, and you do a direct listen. And there are lots of flavors of direct listening that we have, okay? Let me move this somewhere else. 2 seconds. Actually, I'm going to email it to myself. One moment. Not that one. So we have a number. Just try and get it up on my phone. It's a bit easier because it's just making the light, the camera blow out. Right. Do me a favor though. In the chat, can you just type in that you're following what's going on here and it's making sense and that I'm not, talking nonsense. Because it's a tricky one, this. So you create or you choose an existing piece of music, okay? When you play it, when you're listening to that music, we know that in terms of observation, so we observe what that music is, we're observing the emotion of that music. We are not observing our feelings, our thoughts and feelings, okay? We're trying to put those to one side. We're trying to listen to our music without being objective. We move ourselves out of the way. Do say in the chat if you're following though. And we have a number of good. Hello, Sean. And then we have a number of direct listening games, don't we? We have things like Extend Your Vision, direct listen, where basically you lift your posture up when you're listening to the music. Sensory wise, you're feeling the pressure of your feet, your bum on the seat, and we are widening our vision, and this posture allows us to take in hopefully as much musical information as we possibly can, but it does work. And then you have to focus on that music, and direct listening is a bit like meditation. Is our random thoughts based on that music as creators will pop up and then disappear, but we don't want to get on board with them. What we want to do is try and take in as much of the actual data that's there. So that's what that is. That is an observation exercise. I do the one I like is the tension and release one with the pen. I love doing that when we get to sort of like discovery drafting phases, is mapping out the tension and release. That little physical act, that sensory act, keeps my head engaged with listening to the music and not listening to some thought about EQing a snare drum or compressing it or dragging some random plugin out that I've never used and trying that out on something, It moves that to one side and allows us to take in this data, and we've got to trust our insight and we've got to trust our subconscious to do some work here, haven't we? So great, Scott's following, Sean's there, and Smart Alec loves these daily talks. Brilliant. So in terms of observing, we can use a direct listen. But this is the trick, right? This is where it kind of it takes a little bit of practice. Is because the next thing you need to do, right, is you need to basically describe, okay? You need to be able to describe what's happening in the music when there's a problem. So you find a problem in your music, okay? You found something and you need to solve that problem. Let's say there's a problem, right? And in doing that, we need to describe it now. So description is about presenting an observable and tangible aspect of a subject, providing a general overview that focuses on what, when, and where, and who. Right? So that's what the description is. So what does that mean for our music? Okay? we have a piece of music, we're playing it, and let's say there's a problem, and like sometimes you can be sure of a problem, right? And then you can go head first in and fix it and actually create a load of problems. But to be absolutely sure, we need to make a description of what is actually there, obviously containing the problem. And I always think of this as creating a musical 3-dimensional model of what's actually happening over time around where the problem is. And what I'm doing is I'll describe what the music is doing at that time. What I won't do is describe the problem. So we're not describing the problem, okay? We're just describing what is actually there. I hope everybody's following that. That's the first phase of that. It's human nature just to go straight in on the problem and work that out. But what we want to know is, for example, if it was a dance track, okay, the kick drum, the description would be the kick drum is 4 on the floor. We've got like a clap that's happening on the 2nd and 4th beats, which is slightly pushed forward in time. We have like a hi-hat on the off beat. There's some additional carnival style percussion. I'm just making this off the top of my head. There is an offbeat bass. There's also a saw lead, a pad playing extended chord notes, and then you could say there are 9 7s or what have you in the higher register of those chords, and then there is another like a lead melody playing on top, or there's like a little arpeggio thing. So that would be a description. So you've got this thing in your head, and you can see clearly all of those parts because you've wrote them down. Not looking at your computer screen, okay? This is actually, if you weren't looking at your computer screen, retaining this information in your head, okay? That's what's important. And then what we have to do is we have to move on to the explanation of this. So we're going to explain why there is a problem. That's what we want to know. So why is there a problem there in the explanation? I'll just check on my list here. So yes, explain the problem. So what might happen is that you've got basically these let's say there was a note out of tune, okay, but we weren't sure, or a note that seemed to be out of tune, but yeah, we can't find it. It may be some kind of tension that's increased between, when I was talking about this particular piece of music, the pads having a higher extension, an arpeggio, and maybe that sawtooth lead overlapping with the higher extensions of the chord, okay? So you could explain at such and such, it might just be happening on one note, at such and such note, there are a number of frequencies in the same area, all right, causing some sort of harmonic congestion, all right, creating dissonance. So that could be your explanation. So an explanation needs to be, something that you can't vary or hard to vary, which was part of that bit about David Deutsch and music, art and science overlapping, is that we can make things when data exists. Hi Enzo. We can come up with an explanation and a description that's hard to vary. It is that thing, okay? So the interesting thing that I find actually about descriptions and explanations from a coaching point of view, a lot of the time if I'm doing basically non-directive coaching, so in other words, I'm not offering any information here, I'm only asking you questions. If I start asking people to describe things, right, and they describe it enough, usually they find out, actually, wow, I've solved the problem. They can solve the problem just by describing what's actually there. But we can go a stage further with this explanation. So we can locate those notes that are clashing with the higher extensions of the chords and the pads, and now we kind of know where the problem is, and we know why there is a problem, because there's this like overlapping thing. There's some semitones clashing, creating too much tension in the harmony, which is giving it a feeling of being out of tune. And there's the explanation. And then what we can do is we just come up with ways of getting around this problem. So one of the easiest things is to move notes out of the way. So which notes we can explore? Moving the lead note up. We could explore going to the chord and removing all the extensions down, so it creates room, and then seeing how that sounds. And if so, there might be a clash still between the lead and the little arpeggio riff, so I might have to move the arpeggio riff notes out of the way. So there are a number, because we now have that explanation and that data that is hard to vary. It's very easy for us to come up with ways to have solutions to fix the problem. So that's why that part of, why a flower's beautiful is really relevant to my music making, because at the end of the day, making a piece of music is solving problems, isn't it? It's solving lots and lots and lots of problems. So, Enzo, if you just come on today, because it's quite an interesting talk today. I'm enjoying this one. It's a challenging one, but it's an interesting one. Let's see if there are any other ones I can relate to here. So I'll just go through the ones that are here. So, beyond cultural and genetic influences, while acknowledging an influence of cultural and genetics on our perception of beauty, Deutsch argues that these are not the sole determinants. Instead, he suggests that beauty is an objective quality that transcends these influences. So the way objective beauty is another way of thinking about objective perfection, right? Now, I know that I spend a lot of time saying, we don't shoot for perfection. This is important, right? Because perfection, the problem with perfection, right, is it makes us focus on results, which we don't want to do. So if we start writing music and we immediately think about making everything perfect, it becomes less about the music and more about the actions that we're doing. And then there are things that are just, we're not serving the music. What we want to be doing is capturing the moment and the energy and the emotion of a piece of music, and just not worry about the quality. We can sacrifice quality. Why can we sacrifice quality? And the reason we can sacrifice quality is because, I run a music machine, and that music machine allows me creativity, as we know, is modularized, and I can worry about quality later on. All I need to do is I just need to make a big mess. Okay, I need to create a musical crime scene, and then it can forensically be examined later on down the line. Okay, when it is time to focus on that quality, because obviously we want our music to fit in with everything else. We don't want to be reckless with it. We don't want to put stuff out there with notes out of tune, just didn't bother mixing it whatsoever, and it just to the point where the idea doesn't come across. No, I'm not saying that, but what I am saying is that those judgments, we don't want them at the beginning of the process. We want to be free of quality, because if we're not free of quality, we are thinking about the end. Expectations. And expectations are really dangerous to get into expectations. You'll have that thing where you write a piece of music, this is amazing, this is great, and then I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, and then we're into the future now. We're now results, and when we're writing, everything has to serve that future expectation. So now we're not thinking about the music, and we're not thinking about what the music's telling us to do. we're now working with our thoughts and emotions. Hence that thing I was talking about, the music has a set of emotions separate from what we are thinking internally. And we need to take that on board at all times. So, this is hard work. Are you sure you guys are following this? I'm going to check the numbers of it. Oh yeah, a few people are gone. That's all right. Right, okay. I think this is for the hardcore followers, this, isn't it? But I'm sharing it because these ideas profoundly changed me as a musician, right? I love this kind of stuff. You can only go up and down scales so much, and then you have to start thinking like this. Right. Oh, God, I forgot what I was talking. Oh, yeah, objective perfection. So, expectation and results focus, we need to stop doing it, right? Basically, we need to stop doing that. And we need to focus basically in and completely on the now. Because actually, the way to objective perfection, okay, is to follow what the music is telling us. It all starts with an idea, of course. And I mean, the things that I've found, all right, there's Paul. Hi, Paul, how are you doing? And there's Enzo. It starts with an idea. I'll just have to flash Alex's comment up because that makes me feel good. That's why I'm here. I love these daily talks. Me too. They're fun, aren't they? So, in other words, we're never going to get anything perfect. You know, perfection is the horizon. Objective perfection is something we can aim for. However, according to Deutsch, there are certain things we can use that universally people accept as being beautiful in a flower and in music. So I was talking about that I think the music, the pentatonic scale framework is something of beauty. You know, that if we use that, it kind of instinctively makes, you know, even when we're composing with that as a frame, it instinctively makes things fit together and sound how they should, in a way. And then we can, once we've got that as a home base, we can play creating tension from that and coming back to it in improvisation and in our compositions. But as far as objective beauty is, we will never get to it. Because whatever music we're making, if that was the case, everybody in the world would have to agree, okay, at the same time that that music is objectively perfect. And that's not going to happen, is it? Simply because we all have different tastes, okay? And our framework of reference is limited to whatever music we're listening to at the time. You know, we're naturally drawn to things. So I was a dance producer. Now I don't know what I am. Something to do with rock and shredding, right? With a synth thrown in. Yeah. So my framework of reference is working that car crash of things out. Okay. So, you know, if you played me some music, some weird sort of world music thing, you know, I might not like it because I don't understand it straight away. Like really old people might not like my shredding, you know, because they'd see it as noise. They're not going to like, you know, squealy thumb harmonics and stuff like that because they may perceive it as pigs dying or something in a slaughterhouse, right? Whereas we see it as something beautiful, they don't have the framework of that because they might just like listening to big bang jazz. Okay, so it depends on what like framework of reference, but within our framework of reference, as fans of the music that we love, we can seek to find the things that are universally accepted and use those as in a similar way as you know, why is a flower beautiful? As we can find those components and use them, if that makes sense. That was a difficult one, that. Artistic progress and novelty. So Deutsch views artistic progress similarly to scientific progress, where new art adds something unique to the world. This aligns with the idea that beauty, like scientific truth, is objective and adds to our collective knowledge. And I think this comes back to how do we progress our art? How do we progress music? Okay, how do we move forward with ideas or a genre of music? So the first way is the wins, problems, and opportunities. The way we're going to do that scientifically is through solving these problems, identifying and solving problems. My favorite method: wins, problems, opportunities. I suggest everybody does that for everything that they do. When you do a practice session, wins, problems, opportunities. My live with Thomas, next day, wins, problems, opportunities, although I was thinking about it when I got home, and then that gave me certain things to work on, okay, which I'll be working on this week on guitar. Because I love those lives. Those lives are, that's the laboratory, isn't it? That's like a controlled scientific experiment, me. It's like basically we're live and everything I play, there's no going back. What comes out is out, and that's a measure of, at that point or whatever I was doing, my response to that. That's it. So, and I can't take those moments back. So in other words, those bits of guitar that I was playing, those things now exist in the real world, and I can look at it, okay? And I can analyze what I'm doing, and I can do my wins, problems, and opportunities, and work on the areas that I need to work on, But in terms of genre, how do we think of like what the future of a genre is? It's very, very difficult, isn't it? To think of, well, especially when like Gent and like all of these like Instagram videos. I mean, I don't want to sound like old person, right? But it tends to be like, the heavy thing. It sounds all the same to me, pretty much, but very clever and very technical. But obviously, that style of playing came from somewhere. That style of music came from somewhere, and it's not necessarily just thinking what the future is. The way to think of the future is to go back in time and define something and then recontextualize it in the now. And that tends to be like how you can find a new approach to music. It's taking something that's existed and moving it forward. I mean, synthwave's a very good example of that. How that's mutated, and I quite like the definition of synthwave being a genre of music that if they hadn't stopped making it, what would it have sounded like? So obviously there's a gap between the 80s where it all kind of fell off, okay, and then we had the 90s grunge and all that kind of stuff, and then the reintroduction of 80s music, that genre being used as a resource of inspiration for now to create a genre. So that's really interesting. That's a good example of an old style being repurposed into something more modern. And obviously that gets more and more mutated and becomes less and less synthwave-esque and nostalgic. It becomes like, it's sometimes, a lot of the time, some of it just doesn't sound like synthwave to me. It's like something else. It's like this, almost like like some of it's like dubstep, isn't it? And it's got its neural basses on and things like that, and it's quite dark, and it just reminds me of sort of glitch and dubstep from 2011. So, and that's like a way of doing it, and then that idea gets mutated into what we think is the future. So, functional attractiveness. So, Deutsch discusses the functional aspect of beauty, such as how art can literally attract people. making them want to dwell on it and appreciate it more. So an interesting one, isn't it? So creating music that's deep and interesting. This is why I shred, I think. At the end of the day, I shred because it creates a lot of interest. There are a lot of notes there, and there's a lot of different interesting concepts. And music becomes way more of a language that's more expressive. But I suppose, again, this is going back to the components of what are accepted in our genre as beautiful things. Right, I'm just going to catch up on the chat before I talk myself into a hole here. I find the genre of music I'm aiming for doesn't appear to even be a category anymore. I'm referring to a sort of fusion prog rock. Well, you've kind of categorized it there, haven't you, Enzo, really? So a sort of fusion prog rock. So we can put you in the fusion prog rock bit of the record layer of the record store, possibly. But Enzo, did you do the free write? I would like to. I think you should free write more on this music that you're aiming for and explore that more. And a free write would be perfect for that. So I wonder what category it would go in. Have you heard the new Bad Omens song, Poppy? It's literally industrial pop metal. No. I haven't heard it, but I should do, shouldn't I? Right, everybody. So, and it's helped a lot. Great. You've done the free write. That's brilliant. I really enjoyed doing that free writing session, mainly because I had to kind of sit there for periods of silence and try and feel comfortable about myself, which was fine. I'm getting used to it, and it's hot stuff right now. Cool. I mean, it massively helps me, like free writing. Like any like I'll write about like meetings with people, like little business meetings or anything like that. My career, I'll free write on it, and again, it's like like sometimes a free write is it can be the description and the explanation of something, and certainly the description, you can build a 3D model of a situation in your head, can't you? And you can explore all the possible outcomes of that, which is a great, it's a really cool thing of being a human being. I mean, we can't time travel, but we can basically almost predict potential future threats or good outcomes and things, can't we? And the free write definitely opens me up to my awareness to all of the possibilities. And that awareness thing, it's a big thing, isn't it? Especially when you're playing guitar. I mean, I was doing a lesson yesterday, and it was just interesting watching the person who I was teaching, how they became, like, as a teacher, I was aware of something that wasn't quite right in the playing. Okay, and as they were playing, they suddenly got that awareness through observation, and then instantly knew what to fix. And that was a great thing to say, because like a lot of times we'll play guitar and we'll play things the way that we're playing them, and it's not quite right, but we're unaware. And then eventually through observation, when you're practicing, you those problems then appear, and then you realize what you need to do, and that's a great thing. And that's something you get I get excited about that, because it means I've got something to practice. So even when we're practicing, we can go through the motions, but even that should have inspiration behind it and have a future idea that we're excited about, that we're aiming for. So I've talked quite a bit. I'm sort of interested on anybody's thoughts on what I've been talking about. Would anybody like to ask any questions, or just tell me what you've thought of today's talk, which was a little bit challenging, but I was prepared. Any thoughts? Anything at all? Any questions about anything? Any sort of, any sort of thoughts you'd like me to talk a little bit more about that I've covered today? Is there anything that you think, oh, that's a really interesting idea and I'm thinking about doing this? Anything like that? I would love to hear, but don't feel under pressure because, it is possible we could have 13 people on here watching this and then they're just like not inspired. I hope not. I mean, for me, the thing that I, really had to practice, that I thought, all right, this is easy. Like describing something's easy, isn't it? What you find is when people describe the music, they tend to just describe the problems. We're like really problem focused, which is good in a way. But when you're saying just describe what's happening, they're straight into the problem, which is not what we want. We want, because sometimes those problems isn't necessarily the problem that we want to go for. Another interesting thing is that what we have to do is the reason we describe something and get good at describing is because that way it gives us a chance to find the problem. And by fixing the problem, the number one problem, tends to solve all the smaller problems. This is definitely something that happens a lot in mixing, We'll go in there, we'll do the smaller jobs, the easier jobs first, yet avoid to save the bigger ones last. Now, if we just listen to our music like a listener would listen and just go for the problems that are most obvious, that are, biggest impact to the listener and hopefully like very little effort for us to fix, that's how we should be mixing. Right here. Am I still using Splice Bridge? I just started experiment on my new Mac. Or do you have other suggestions getting past writer's block? Well, don't go on Splice. Would be like a good way, because that's like opening of windows, fiddling on. I've tried Loop Cloud, I've tried other things, and I think like they're just too slow and too clumpy for me. So if we're talking about instant access to anything, right? I mean, irrelevant thoughts that we're having in our music is, I need to find this sound as one of them, okay? If you need to find a sound in your session, just write down, I need to find this sound, but probably for another track, okay? Don't have anything clunky, all right? You can make something close that will probably be better anyway. So if you're I like EXO, so I'm not, all of my one shots on my hard drive are all visible, and I can get to that. But I don't even like making kits. I just like to pick a kit and start writing, because it's the notes that you're putting in there that are more important. So, you just want, I always say, like having a template of beats plus 3. So what's beats plus 3? It's think of it like a band: drum kit, bass, mid-range, lead, and that's it. And then you just go and you start your ideas like that, because it's all about the idea, okay? When you hear this music later, then you can have other thoughts about what you're going to do to it, like find that loop or that, and then prepare for your next session. Is EXO the best for inspiration? There is no kind of best for inspiration. It's just to do what your personal preference is. I mean, I've wavered about quite a bit. EXO is something that I definitely stick to. But I'll tell you what, inspiration, right? Okay, doesn't come from one external thing that you're going to plug in and hope that inspires you. It's you, isn't it? It's your brain. Inspiration comes from basically what music you've been listening to, that you've been feeding. Listening to my morning sessions is inspiration, at least I hope it is. Okay, that's inspiration. Other inspiration could be, I mean, a really good one to practice discovery is to go out, Enzo, and just get your phone and record found sound. Don't worry about what it is you're recording, just record a load of noise, pull it into your session, listen to that noise, and see if you discover anything that can be a question phrase that you could write a response to. So that's a way of finding inspiration. Okay? But inspiration inspiration's also the motivation, isn't it, to do something? And we talked about this. We talked about having inspiration. And according to the Greeks, inspiration it's the gods that gives us that. It's the muse, the bunch of ladies, okay? And the way you're going to get inspiration, right, is just to sit down at your computer and do the thing, do the work. One of the most inspiring things that was said to me was, Tim, you have permission to make absolute shit music. Enzo, give yourself permission to make absolute shit music and just proudly go in there like I do and make absolute crap, okay? Because if you don't make crap, you'll be constipated. So what I'm saying is there is no secret inspiration formula. There is not one plugin. You might get something, oh, this is new, and you have that novelty about it and you knock a few things out. But you can't do that every day. Okay? And when we're making crap, giving out, how do we know that it is crap? Again, it's like what I was talking about before, right? Okay, it might not be crap because when you're making that music, there is your personal feelings towards that music, you as an artist, but there is also the feelings that music and the story that music also is telling, which is another set of emotions. And this is why I was talking about this earlier on. We need time to separate those things. So 3 days, okay, of not listening to music. So that allows you to separate yourself from the experience of making the music to actually the emotions that the music is expressing. So that's very, very important, I think. But when you mention inspiration, this is the thing that I'm talking about. We don't wait for inspiration. The people, when I'm coaching people, none of us wait for inspiration. We know inspiration's going to come, and we just have to. You believe in that. You sit down and you do it, and it becomes more than the belief because inspiration always happens. I prepared this live very briefly yesterday, like about 3 minutes, right? Okay, and I thought this is like I'm probably going to fall flat on my face. I woke up and out of bed this morning and I've thought, oh, you know what? I cannot be arsed. And I was thinking, right, how can I get it? I'll just sneak up and just type in the chat, oh, I'm ill or something or whatever. I had those thoughts because I just thought, I'm going to die. I'm going to come on here and talk about stuff and I'm not going to know what I'm talking about, right? Why? Because I don't feel inspired. But now look at me. I've woke up. I'm like inspired to talk about stuff. And sure enough, when I started the live and I started... there was a bit of mumbling, I'll get my coffee, good morning, I'm cold again, all that kind of stuff. Well, I feel like, that every morning. It's human nature. I was comfortable in bed. I was warm. And I didn't, there wasn't any worries. But I put myself through this because I want to progress. And that's what's important. What's also important is that, some of these thoughts that I have, I share with the world. And, you guys are there, thankfully, and you're hearing it. And hopefully, some of it may help. But I didn't wait for inspiration. I tried waiting for inspiration in bed, but it wasn't going to come. I was warm. I was thinking the opposite of inspiration. I was thinking, how can I get myself out of this? And then just stop it, Tim. Hutch, get up. And do it. And then I sit here. I'm still not inspired, but now I am inspired. And it happens every time, Enzo. Every time we don't wait for inspiration. Inspiration comes. You're a big inspiration for me, and since I've been doing these lives, I've been doing much better. That is great. And this actually reminds me because... I do try to think about my coaching business as a business at times, right? So I have an offer, right? So basically, you can join a group of 4. So I've got a new group I'm starting, okay? And I need 4 people. But this time, right? Okay, it's $237 a month, right? Okay. And you get, so every month, regardless if it's a 5-week or a 4-week month, you pay your $237, right? And basically, you're on a Zoom call with me, You're not hearing each other's music, okay? And I will coach you to make better music for 2 hours a week, okay? And everybody gets lots of attention, and it's great, and it all, it's like this, but sitting there with me, taking you through really practical, should we say, exercises, but games that are gonna show you exactly what problems you need to be fixing in your music, not creating new problems, but fixing, the problems that you've got. And I'll take you through that. Now, $237, what I'll do is, if anybody just starts this, right, and does a month and just thinks, I don't get any of it and I'm not getting anything out of that, and I've just thrown my $237 away, right, I'll refund it. I'll give you it back. It's absolutely fine. So there's no risk. If you've got the money, and this is something that you're thinking about, and you're sitting on the fence, and you're thinking, like, it would be great to, like, just sit and have a routine every day and make music and express myself and at least give a go at making a connection. Because, the music industry is a fairer place. We've all got a voice, and we can all get music released, and we can all put it out there, and, having that experience of fixing problems, all right? Creating problems, fixing problems, and solving them, and releasing stuff, and putting out in the world, and becoming an artist, all right? Just as a hobby, right, will teach you so much in life. Because it's a great way to learn to fix problems, and you feel just great about yourself, and it's just a wonderful thing. So anybody, so again, just to reiterate, it is, the money has gone up. It's at $237 to join a group, and you get your money back if you think it's a load of pants after a month. There we go. I can't do any more. That's my offer. But do get in touch. The email. Right. So, Enzo, I do it. However, I want to feel comfortable with my new workflow when I start doing it. You would be designing your workflow. Doing the whole point of this coaching thing is to do that. I'll do that with you. So when you say something like, I will do, but I want to design a workflow that I feel comfortable with, right? The problem with that is it's future problem solving, isn't it? You're thinking, if I have these problems, then I've got this workflow that's going to fix those problems, but we haven't encountered a lot of this. So that's what you've got to bear in mind, Enzo, when you're doing something like that, because I used to do that. I need to be comfortable with my workflow. It's like a skill focus. It's like I need to learn these skills before I do something. It's another thing stopping you. That's not going to stop you making music, because I can get you to make music just with like a drum and a bass, like in seconds, right? So it's not needed. What's needed is you need to start with a starting point and work from there, creating problems that are relevant to what you're trying to achieve. Okay? That's what's important. You can do the workflow as much as you like, but workflow changes. It's a dynamic thing, and it's something you can't really predict into the future unless you're making and finishing pieces of music. Okay? Because what happens at the end of the process can inform what's happening at the beginning. Okay, you switch to Logic 3. Well, you might have to, saying that, yeah, you might have to do a few tutorials. But again, what DAW were you on? I mean, it doesn't really matter what software you use, but why would you change to something that would be different from something that you were using? Is what I would question there. Because a DAW's a DAW. It's a dumb animal. It's like it's just offering ways to solve problems. That's all it's doing. It doesn't come to life till you stick something in it. Anyway, Enzo, what would be good? All right, yeah. And the other thing is, anybody who is really thinking about this coaching thing as well, because I know I bang on about it. I'll just put my email in. You can send me an email, and I will do a quick Zoom call with you to have a chat. I'm not going to just dump you into a group and then hope for the best. All right. tim@timcoach.uk. Right, no, that's cool. If you think it's a better fit, Enzo, that's all good. What I would say is, like, how do you know? What is the data? Again, it's like I wonder if there's like a future thing, or there's some feature you think, oh, that'll be better, I fancy doing that. I'm interested in exploring that, Enzo. It's a better fit for me than Ableton. Cool. So again, Enzo, if you want to jump on a quick call for half an hour, if you're thinking about this, that's cool. Anybody else, you can book in for a quick call with me and ask lots of questions about it. That's cool. And again, if you're on it and you want a refund because you didn't get anything from it, then I'll do that. Other than that, it's been an inspiring morning. It's been great. I've got up and I've done what I've set out to do. So we've got one more talk tomorrow. And that's the end of the month, isn't it? So I did say I'd do a full month for these talks, so I'll have to think of something tomorrow, unless somebody's got a suggestion. Just send me an email. You would ask for a refund, Enzo. I'd expect it if it was absolute nonsense, right? And you didn't get anything from it, I would expect to be refunding you the money. That's the thing. Because sometimes it's not. It's a different thing. AI chat, right? Okay. I'll have a think about AI. We can do some AI. I'll try and pull some AI stuff together for tomorrow, all right? All right, then. But it's never going to make the music for us, Enzo. And it's not going to give us inspiration. Because we're done for if that happens. We've got to be more inspired on our own 2 feet than we've ever had to be before in our lives, right? Because of the AI, we've got to fight back. That's the first, that's where it's going to go wrong, isn't it? Skynet, yeah, not doing that. Right, okay. So I think that's everything I've concluded. And everybody have a great day, and I will be here tomorrow with another talk. And then Wednesday, there isn't one. Thursday, I'm going to make something. Probably music. Right. Have a great day. Bye.